Thanks for staying with us at STL Live. I'm Sarah Thompson, and my guests are Cindy Mense and Taylor March of Trailnet. So we've been talking about in the first segment the Trailnet survey that's about protected bikeways and sidewalk survey, and Taylor, you were talking about some of the data. Tell me a bit about the Portland survey and how that kind of connects to what we're talking about today.
Yeah, so one of the things that we found nationally, there was a study that was done in Portland a few years ago that kind of categorized the kinds of people that currently bike as they were looking to try and get more people out biking. And the study found that 60% of the population was actually interested in cycling, but they were concerned about the safety. And there was a national study that went and kind of found the same thing across the U.S. And so when we talk about kind of building a network of protected bikeways and improved sidewalks, that's really the population that we're going towards. Is, currently 16% of the population in St. Louis doesn't get to work by a car, and so of that, we potentially have an even larger portion of the population that would be open to finding another transportation mode as well.
But safety is the big concern, and
Exactly.
I know when we were talking off camera, something that you really focus on too is behavior. It's not just sort of the infrastructure and the policy, but also how do you change people's behavior?
So some of the work that we've done, especially Taylor, is we worked with schools in a project called Safe Routes to Schools, where we teach children how to walk safely to school and how to interact with traffic and what kinds of things to be concerned about. We also do bike education, but we found over time it's really not enough. Parents are concerned that their children aren't going to be safe crossing the street, and that if we can improve the safety of the streets, then more people will be out there walking and biking. We've had a project called a traffic calming project, where what we do is we try and slow down the speed at which people drive on streets by adding things like bump outs, improving the crosswalks, and using traffic circles. So we've been working with the city of St. Louis doing that on a project called Calm Streets. And so this will all work in concert with the protected bikeway vision, that the picture that we showed you, where we take a lane of traffic and we dedicate it. We're not saying this will be all over St. Louis, but this would be the hub. And then you connect in on other streets by making those streets calmer and prioritize them for our vulnerable users who will be walking, biking, children.
I know that you've looked at, you just gave Portland as an example, and when we were talking earlier, Indianapolis. When you look at St. Louis, what do you feel is unique about St. Louis that sort of puts us in the predicament that we're kind of in, or is this pretty much common in every city in America?
The biggest thing for St. Louis is that we have a street network that was built for about 1 million people, and we currently have just a little over 300,000 that live in the city. And so the roadways, a lot of times the lane widths are the same as they are on the highway, and that's not the same in other cities. And so what we've seen as a result of that is that the biggest thing that we hear from residents is that they're concerned about speeding.
Yes.
When lane widths are really wide, when streets are wide and unobstructed, people are encouraged to drive faster. And that's really the biggest thing that we see kind of contributing to the perception of these being dangerous activities.
Yeah, St. Louis, I will say, is one of the places where I've seen where people actually use the metered parking lane sometimes to,
Oh, we've done a protected, the parking protected bike lane on Chestnut. Is that what you're talking about?
Or just, I was just saying in general, but noticing that because so alluding to the point about the wide streets. And I want to kind of counter that on the other side, which is the increase that you've seen, as you've mentioned, with cyclists and people who are kind of going about this healthier lifestyle of biking to work, walking to work. You've been with Trailnet for 9 years now. I mean, how have you seen that change over the years?
Well, those numbers have greatly increased. We have 270% increase in people biking, but we know that to attract and retain talent in the city of St. Louis, especially in the biotech districts that we've been talking about, that young people, they want to be able to live a car-free lifestyle, and that's something that's going to attract and retain talent when you do that. And so we're concerned about that. We think this is a project that could be something that will attract people. We've seen that the model in Indianapolis, where they've done something called the Indianapolis Cultural Trail, has really done just that. They've seen increases in property values, increases in population, in occupancy rates, and also in economic growth. And we want to do that in St. Louis, but we want to do it with an equity lens.
Right.
So that's why the survey is so important to us, because we want to hear from everybody. We're coding where you live, and we're making sure that we're able to spread our reach to all parts of the city.
I think that's wonderful because in the end, when these projects, it always comes back to, well, what was the outreach to hear what people wanted, and it's so important that you're taking the time to do that. Well, we've got the information there for you on the screen. If you want to reach out and learn, first of all, more about Trailnet, head to their website, trailnet.org. They do a lot of programs, a lot with policy initiative and transportation planning, but what we've been talking about today is the Trailnet Protected Bikeways and Sidewalks survey. Please participate in the survey. It's open through May 31st, and it's accessible through their website. And thank you both again for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
All right, well, there's more STL Live right after this. Please stay with us.